Stephon Diggs is now a Texan. The Eagles have extended Devontae Smith, and a lot of news going on in the NFL outside of the actual season. What's good, everybody? I'm Kwame Fisher-Jones, and welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. Today, I'm joined by my man, Chris Franklin, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles of NJ.com. What's going on, Chris?
Well, Kwame, man, it's good to talk to you again, man. Everything's going well, man. How about yourself?
I'm outstanding, man. It's supposed to be your off season. At least that's what they say on your paycheck.
What off season? I mean, the only thing I know off season was the dead period. I'm looking forward to that. Right after mandatory mini camp's done, from that until training camp, that's when you see all of a sudden where'd all the beat writers go?
Yeah. It's so much to get into. We got the draft coming up, obviously. We've got Justin Fields is now a Steeler. I think we already touched on that or kind of hinted towards that. But the move I want to talk about is the quiet move that not a lot of people discuss. So I read it to the Jets. Even if you're not an Eagles fan, you gotta wonder how that happens. How does that happen? He's one of the premier edge rushers, but this will be his fourth NFL franchise, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you something a little bit about him. You know, if he's that deep into it, that talented, but that deep into NFL teams, NFL pensions, NFL clubs, NFL jerseys. What happened?
See, I think it's more when it comes to the multiple teams, it was one of those things where I think it's just been circumstance. I look at the way he was with Arizona, they didn't know how to use him. Oh, use him as an off-ball linebacker. Nah, that's not what he's an edge rusher. So he gets to Carolina, he does well. He wants to stay in Carolina. Carolina probably doesn't want to stay in Carolina. So he goes to the Eagles and right. It was that gap. They were just too far apart. And the Eagles, we know their philosophy for most players when they go turn over 30, and he was approaching that. And that's when they say, you know what? They were going to have to decide for him and Sweat, which production wise, you do have to go more with Reddick because 27 sacks, 2 seasons, it's tough. So they realized that they were far apart. I've heard anything between 5 to 7 million a year. And with all these bigger contracts that they had, you got Saquon, you got all these other, and Landon Dickerson, all these big contracts. They can manage it this year because it's basically nothing when you look at the base salaries. Next year, it jumps. So they realized, you know what? Might as well get some. Although what they got back, a third rounder, they probably were going to get a comp pick no matter what, because somebody's going to sign them, probably to a decent deal. So they got a conditional third. I think it's going to stay a third rounder because he'll get 10 sacks, but I think the Jets might play a little funny with the snap count thing. So you would have gotten basically getting an additional maybe 15, 20 slots up in the draft, maybe. That's about it. To me, I think you just bite the bullet for 1 year and just say, you know what? We're rolling with 5. Maybe Nolan Smith is the odd guy out. You sit him, and he's the one that's inactive, or you carry 5 and you go light it off the ball linebacker. But I just got a bad feeling about this deal. In my gut, I just got a real bad feeling about this.
Yeah, I don't like it. You know, it's tough to replace production for promise, and I feel like forget the brother's name they got from the Jets. His name escapes me at the moment,
Bryce
but I
Huff?
don't know. I don't know if he's been that productive as Hassan. And last year was a I'll say ish show. I'll keep it clean and say ish show on the defensive side of the ball. He was coming off an injury to start the season anyway, but he was a major factor for you going forward. You do have Brandon Graham back, so hopefully maybe he can grab one of those rushers and get them under his wing, you know, and help them help them be as productive. But it was interesting. I didn't like that. I don't like the backup quarterback they signed. I know everyone says what's the big deal? He's a backup quarterback. I don't think you go that route with Jalen Hurts. I just don't. I think you get a veteran backup quarterback that is in the quarterback room and that can help Hurts, not someone that can push Hurts. I don't think he needs to be pushed anymore. I think he's serious enough. I think he wakes up mad at the toilet seat because it's cold. Like I think he's serious enough. I feel like he's a dude that needs to lighten up a little bit. This is my opinion. You know what I'm just saying. So maybe get a 15-year veteran who's going to crack jokes, lighten the mood, be somebody you can bounce ideas off of. Not a big brother, but somebody that you can, you know, kick it with a little bit, grab a drink with, put a barbershop, things like that that people don't think of behind the scenes. What say you on that?
I I look at Kenny Pickett. It's not so much that if they went younger or whatever. You don't if you didn't want to get like I know Jacoby Brissett was going to be outside their range because he's a tweener
French
starter
star,
back
yeah.
that one too. I look at the guy and his name's escapes me now. Baltimore Ravens. He filled in for Lamar
Gerard
when he.
Huntley.
Oh, yep.
Huntley.
I liked him. I thought he would be perfect for that system. For what they had, that or Tyrod Taylor, either one of them to be the backup, learn this. Still, you don't have to change it like you did with Hurts and Gardner Minshew. Completely change your system. I thought he was all right. With Kenny Pickett, even healthy or even the system, I just don't like. I know somebody talking about, oh well, he's good in rhythm. He's gonna. I just don't see it. I've tried to see it when he came out in the draft. I tried to see it when he was with the Steelers, and we didn't see it because Matt Canada, what have you, in the systems, whatever. I just didn't see that spark that everybody talks about. Like, hey, you know what? He's gonna be a good starter in this league. I don't see it when I look at the way he plays, when I look at the way he runs it. I just he's just like, to me. It's gonna sound rough. I'm not trying to be out taking this. He's just a guy, and
Yeah.
you trade a third round pick for him. You kind of, especially now knowing that you have all these contracts, you kind of need some affordable players that are going to be on there. And I think it's tough when you have, it's better to have four picks in the top 100, but you trade away one for a guy. Okay, you have control for 2 years, but you probably could have done a lot better on that. So,
Yeah, and like I said, I just don't like the aesthetics of it. It just doesn't sit well with me. It feels like, and I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy with this analogy, but it feels like Jim McMahon, Randall Cunningham.
mm,
Like if Jalen gets hurt or anything, Sirianni's going to push to have Jalen sit, and he's going to bring this guy in. Or, I don't want to say Kevin Cobb drafted Donovan McNabb because that was a little different. But, it just, it feels like there's a disconnect there. It just feels like there's a disconnect there, and they're trying to get rid of any type of leverage or player leverage Sirianni's trying to get. It's just, that's what it seems like from far. I want to transition to another guy. I'm not as high on this move as everyone else. And the thing that sticks out to me about this move, well, first, Stephon Diggs to the Texans. Everyone's going to Google Gaga over this. A disgruntled receiver who receivers don't leave good quarterbacks. And Terrell Owens left Donovan McNabb, but there was a reason for that. And I think Donovan was a good quarterback, but there's people who don't think he is. But it seems to be unanimous, except for me, that everyone thinks Josh Allen is a good quarterback. So is Diggs telling us something about Allen? And am I looking too much in this? And one more part, the second part of that is, what's to say about Stephon Diggs? This is 13. This is 13 now.
see, I look at it as one of those things where, I think he just wants to go somewhere and win. And I think you reach that ceiling with Buffalo. It's not going to get easier because you're still in the AFC.
Yeah.
Because you obviously got the Chiefs looming now too. I just think it's going to be an easier path for the Texans to get. I think the Texans are going to be, well, obviously now that Diggs is going, I think the Texans are going to be, I think early on, it might be AFC championship type caliber team with a young quarterback they can still build around and a motivated Diggs. Very motivated. He knows what it takes to be in the playoffs. He's been there.
Always motivated, though.
Yeah. He's one to play. I like to play as a player because he'll find the slightest thing and go, oh, you said that about me? Oh, I can't. Oh, Josh Allen came with it. We'll see about that. And
Yeah.
I look at that. He was in Minnesota too. The ceiling went, and then your boy Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
So it was rough on that.
I'm one of the few Kirk Cousins backers. I reside in that club. I'm not gonna lie. Look, there's nothing wrong. There's a scene in one of my favorite shows, Different World, where the girl says, I didn't want to be stuck out of Baltimore working a city job. And the girl says, there's nothing wrong with Baltimore, and there's nothing wrong with a city job. For Kirk Cousins, there's nothing wrong with 10 wins a season, wild card playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
I'll use another Different World thing. When he actually wins a big game in the playoffs, I'll do a Dwayne Wade and flip up my glasses like, what? What happened?
He doesn't have to win big games. Big games are his thing, and I know we're not going to spend all the time with Kirk Cousins, but I defend Kirk Cousins because I always say this. If you're the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the New Orleans Saints, you're cool with being in contention towards the end of the season. Shoot, if you're the Oakland/Las Vegas/Los Angeles/ I know I'm forgetting somebody else, Raiders, you're cool with being in contention every year. That's what Kirk Cousins gives you. And a knee snaps here or ankle sprain there, and now you're playing in the conference championship game. Going back to Diggs, Chris, I'm gonna be real with you. He's like the woman that's never happy. No matter what you do, she's never. And I hate diva wide receiver. I think it's so disrespectful. He's the woman that's never happy. You buy her Benz, she wanted a mistake, or she wants a BMW. You get her 10 carats, she wants 12 carats. You get her ribs, she wants wings. Like she's always upset. That sticks to me. That
I think,
sticks to me.
and I think he's in the perfect position now, especially with the one thing I didn't get from making this move. And so basically, I know it was always going to be a one. Is for the most part, be 1 year. The fact they bought him out and gave him all that money, so like you can. That's the part for me. I'm like, all right, I know you want the guy
Taking that
motivated.
habit, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't get that part. I look at it though, he's in a better position now because that AFC South, the Jaguars, they're goodish. They're playoff caliber team. Playoff caliber team, but that one too. You look at the Colts, they're gonna be a little bit better, but I still think they're better in there too. And the Titans, they're gonna be a couple years away. So I think that's the best
Years will
path.
be in a couple years.
Yeah, went out for a while. Yeah. So you look at the path that they have, they can run up a lot of wins, get that 1 seed, and force Kansas City to go on the road. So if I'm him, I'm like,
Ooh.
that going
Oh,
shot. Especially
whoa.
the two schedules. So far, potential teams. I'll take the Texans, and a
You
lot.
really stepped out there.
I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think it's one of those things where you get enough wins, where you like roll off 12, 13 wins. Maybe KC starts off slow again, and they get 12. Maybe they get the hangover, and now all of a sudden you got them coming to Houston instead of you having to go to Arrowhead, which is always a crazy place to play. You never know what's going to happen there.
Interesting that you bring up Kansas City because that was a stipulation for Diggs. The Bills management said you can go anywhere you want, but Kansas City. We're not going to trade you to Kansas City. But they want to compete with Kansas City. Like, dude, line it up. You signed to let Diggs. If you don't think he's good enough for you, we're gonna see what he can do with Patrick Mahomes. Or he's good and you don't want to deal with that, which begs another issue of why is my $1 million coach not able to coach talent? That's something that should be asked more in sports. Why are these coaches paid these big salaries and can't deal with these big personalities?
I think it's just him I think McDermott as a whole, because you look at that, what he did with his coordinators, especially Frazier.
It ain't my fault.
Yeah, that was telling. And then all that stuff, was like, God, the players listen to all that stuff. They see what's going on, like, oh, so he did that to a coordinator, somebody he's with more than us. What's he going to do to me if I mess up? So that's what I think we'll see in a couple of years. After this year, I think McDermott's done, because I don't see them being that good afterwards. And then that leads to we see him as a coordinator after that, because I don't see anybody else giving him a head coach. He had that long, and you weren't able to take that talent of a roster, especially a couple of years ago. You had a very talented roster. You couldn't get them over the hump. I think we'll just see him as a coordinator from here on out.
Speaking of ain't my fault head coaches, before we get to the draft, last NFL recap question for you, wrap-up question for you. San Francisco 49ers, Kyle Shanahan. There is a disgruntled wide receiver out here. The 49ers are pushed up against it cap-wise. They got some funny money, which I don't fully grasp because you have a rookie quarterback. Now, I know they're taking a hit from trading Trey Lance, which is a whole story for another show. He seems to be sticking up to Jordan Dallas, like bad. But Ayuk he wants out, or he wants more money and he wants out. Something. It's kind of convoluted what's coming out, but what we do know is this: another year, another disgruntled player. It was Deebo Samuel a few years ago. It was the running back. I forget his name. Before that, look, Shanahan fired his defensive coordinator because it wasn't Shanahan's fault they lost, even though it was his blocking scheme that allowed Chris Jones to get over. But yeah, it's not important. It's not important. Am I looking at this for San Francisco as the end of I don't say era, but are we looking at the tail end of Kyle Shanahan? I think the Rams will be better this year. I definitely think the Rams will be better this year. The Cardinals will be the Cardinals, so there's no reason to even talk about them. But the Seahawks, they'll be competitive. Will they be a playoff contender? But they'll be competitive. I do think the Rams will be good this year. San Francisco lose 1 or 2 games that a lot of people aren't looking. They go from number 1 seed to playing in a wild card, having to go on the road. Brock Purdy's journey looks a lot different now. Am I making too much of this? Do you see this writing on the wall? Are we looking at the final days of Shanahan?
I think he got a couple of years. I think he's bought himself that much time. I think you
got
to
respect. Who falls for Trey Lance? Who's going to take the blame for Trey? Somebody's got to eat that.
Well, I can tell you a line right now. It's a collaborative effort right now. John Lynch, come down. It's a collaborative effort. We really thought that COVID year was really tough. We missed on some. Nobody really hits the first. That is the exact line they're going to use. Like the PR was spitting, like, use this one. But I look at it. It's to me. I think he's got 2 years left. This one, I think they'll still be competitive. I still think they win in division, but I don't think they're in the 1 seed now. I think
Yeah.
they dropped to 3 because you got. I think the Eagles and Detroit are going to battle out for 1-2. And now you got them going to be in the 3 seed, meaning they're going on the road in the divisional round. And depending on the match who's available, we see that. This last year was their best shot. They had the best rookie. They had all that talent around there. And now you look at them and they're in a cap. They're getting the thing. You're going to have a Super Bowl hangover from losing. You got your cap hell right now, which you're going to continue doing that. You don't have a good capologist like you do, like they have over Eagles and some of these other teams here, like Miami. So like, all that stuff. It's going to be rough. And they can't keep it. So it's almost that last gas. It's that they're on their last gas, but it's going to end very soon. So Shanahan deserves. Don't get me wrong. Shanahan deserves a lot of the blame for them not getting over the hump. A lot of that blame. But yeah, the Trey Lance one. It's going to be a collaborative effort, and we'll hear all the buzzwords and all
Not
that
if
stuff.
he sucks. Not if he's as bad. Not if he's Markel Fultz. If he's the Markel Fultz of the NFL. Shanahan's, who I can't say Shanahan made that call, but whomever made that call. Because remember, Shanahan was the guy who refused to go to the Patrick Mahomes workout. He's the guy who didn't think Patrick Mahomes was worth going to see, but he co-signed Trey Lance. Maybe he signed or maybe he co-signed, but he signed. And if he goes somewhere else and is successful, then look, it just didn't work for us. But if he goes somewhere and sucks, he can't even get off the bench in Dallas, which is about to be a disaster. I'm sorry. And you mentioned it. Look, Dallas is going to be a disaster. The Commanders are going to be the Commanders. The Giants are in quarterback purgatory. The Eagles should roll this year. If they have their stuff together, they should roll this year. You mentioned the Lions. Losing Kirk Cousins with the Vikings is going to be tough, but I think the Packers are going to steamroll that division. I really liked what I saw in the playoff game against Dallas. I think the Packers are going to be a force. But here's the commonality. Those are two nipple cringing cold cities come December and January. San Francisco's chilly. Philly and Green Bay is, good Lord, it hurts cold. It's a different truck for Brock Purdy and them boys. So we're going to keep an eye on that. NFL draft question. Who's the best player you're hearing? Who's the best player that we're not hearing about?
Ooh, Mohamed Kamara.
Any position.
It's a stretch. It's going to be a stretch, but Mohamed Kamara. I really think
Okay.
this guy's going to be a dominant edge. He's out of Colorado State. I look at the quickness that he has. I look at his ability. I like him a lot. And a lot of teams have liked him a lot too, so much they bring him in for top 30 visits. But when you have a lot of your first round guys, when you have your Turners, when you have even guys in Alabama like with program cachet like Chris Broswell, stuff like that, lay a lot to. All those guys are going to be around here. Everybody could be that. But Kamara, I know it's the Mountain West and everybody has the Power 5 bias and stuff like that. When you look at the Mountain West, you're Defensive Player of the Year. You can tell you better, and you're up there. I think he was tied with Latu for the most sacks in the league. And I mean, lots of sacks in college last year. So you see a guy, you're getting that much production. I know it's not the same type of competition at level, but you see a guy with that much speed, that much quickness, that much production over there, and not the injury history he has. I think he's one of those guys where I had him initially, like in the middle of the year. I had him like in the late, like a fifth, fourth. I think he might sneak in the second round now. He's that good. And he's going to be a steal for somebody. I think he'd be that productive on there. I think he's a really good guy.
And one thing you should throw in there is a motor. He has an unbelievable competitive fire about him. The UCLA rusher that you mentioned, I watched him play. It was a lot of speed for him. A lot of speed. And look, I'll be honest, Chip Kelly doesn't really give you the toughest football players. Like it is what it is. He doesn't give you the toughest, except for LeGarrette Blount, who he kicked off the team but kept around the team. Outside of that, Oregon didn't produce the toughest football players. I question what the UCLA rusher is going to be in the NFL. I have no questions about him. And if any of you have questions about him, turn on that Colorado State game. He raised his level of play in that game. They couldn't block him. And he was hurt. But he still gave you maximum effort. So I like that name. Great pick by you. Who's somebody that we're hearing too much about? And if you say Caleb Williams, I'm walking away.
No, JJ McCarthy. I'm tired of hearing JJ McCarthy
Agreed.
as a free
Agreed.
pick. To me, he's Daniel. To me, at least if you're talking that pick, and I know leadership's important. It's a very important quality to have, but leadership only gets you so much when you're supposedly a top 5, top 10 pick. And I look at when we were talking about Kenny Pickett, this is Daniel Jones part 2 without the athleticism that you had with Daniel Jones. I'm hoping this is like one of those things where it's an elaborate smokescreen that teams are going out. Oh, we're going to have dinner with him. We want to enjoy it. We want to eat dinner with him. You can go eat dinner
Top
with that.
10.
Yeah, and whoever takes him, for the Giants, I hope the Giants take him. I really hope the Giants take him, because if they do that and have Daniel Jones, that's just a wasted thing. It's like, well, you just submitted yourself in the ball. Because I still think the Giants are going to be the worst team in that division. It's going to be one of those things where you look at it and you just go, you know what? Why? JJ, I don't see. I don't think he has an elite arm. I don't think he has elite athleticism. I think he can do okay when it comes to play recognition and that. But if you're not fat quick enough to recognize it, if you can't get the ball out quickly with beyond 15, 20 yards on dig and accurately, doesn't matter. I don't see any elite trait out of all of them except for leadership. I know this is so to stretch from this one too. If this is the Justice League, he's Batman. He's got the tactician stuff, but he had no other special powers. He just got the will and stuff like that. That's it.
Yeah, I like that. But Batman was my favorite superhero, so you got to take that back. But I get what you're saying. He reminds me. Who reminds me of Mac Jones? Remember Mac Jones when he came out of Alabama? Everyone talking about him, and the Patriots wound up grabbing him, and now they traded him in their conference, so they're not even really worried about him at all. You know, I'm concerned about Caleb Williams in Chicago. I'm concerned about it. Chicago ruins quarterbacks.
Yep.
Everybody doesn't suck. The Jets ruin quarterbacks. Everybody doesn't suck. He goes to Chicago, and I know they've got was it DJ Williams? I think they've got DJ Williams, a wide receiver, but I don't.
Yeah, I think it was like he's got a couple of receivers now. I forget the other guy, and Cole Kmet. He got the tight ends there too, so he got some options.
He got some options, but he still got the same coaches. Still got the same history. Still got the same legacy. Still got the same albatross of a franchise. And what do you think? What do you think Caleb Williams' rookie year is going to look like?
I think it's going to be one a lot we see with Bryce Young. Because truth be told, I don't think he's the best quarterback. I don't think he's the best quarterback in this class. I think he's got some. He unlike McCarthy, I think he does have some traits you really like. But I look at it, I think he's a struggle because even though they have all the receivers, it's going to be an adjustment. To me, I'm very leery of USC quarterbacks. See Mark Sanchez, see David Booter, see all those. Yep, see all those guys, and then the Pac-12 defenses are not that you have players that are good in Pac-12 defenses, but how many times do we see Pac-12 after dark and it's about 55, 40, 45 because it keeps just running up. So you can run up a lot of good numbers like he did. I'm not going to knock it. He deserved the Heisman because he put up the numbers, he put up the season to warrant it. But when you look at everything else and you see that, and you try to translate his game into the NFL, I see the elite throws. You can do that, but can you do it under pressure in the NFL? Can you make that timing? And I think that first year is going to be a little rough. He's got better support than Bryce Young does, but I see him struggling. And also, Chicago Bears when it comes to development, Matt Abrams was a defensive-minded coach. If he's smart, run the ball, let your defense come back over, and just let him ease guided in there. That's the only way I see him having a decent year and run play action. That I don't think they do that. I think they want to try to showcase him and try to throw the ball here, there, and everywhere in between, and then it catches up with him. So I still think I like Jaden Daniels a lot, though.
You're a Jaden Daniels guy.
I like Caleb Williams. I really do. I think Penix is that, but you got the lefty thing going. You got the injury, his age, his injury history. That's why I think he's
small. He's small. Yeah, I think that's Penix's big problem is he's small. I like Penix too. I don't know much about Jaden Daniels. I'm not gonna lie. I'm hearing his name a lot, but I remember people saying that Ryan Leaf was better than Peyton Manning, and it's so. No, but the reason why I bring it up is because you're talking about Pac-12 quarterbacks. At that time, it was the Pac-10, and Ryan Leaf could sling that sucker through 15-mile-per-hour wind and -4 degrees. So it was something to that. But in the end, up here is where it didn't work for him. And that's where Peyton thrived. So I don't know if that's the thing with Caleb Williams, but I do. So many people that I respect are questioning him. And no one's saying he doesn't have the talent. People are saying going to Chicago, the mistakes he makes, the pressure being number one. I'm starting to wonder myself too. And Chicago is a bad place to go. Just like it's a bad place. Philadelphia 76ers are a bad place to go if you're a top 3 draft pick. Chicago's a bad place to go if you're a top quarterback. It is. I mean, let's be real. Everybody in Sixers draft stinks. Like, do everybody stink? The Chicago Bears are a killer sports franchise. Every quarterback they've had has been bad. Eric Kramer's the best quarterback.
In the Sixers' defense, they did draft Mikal Bridges. Now they weren't smart enough, and they traded him away and they regret that now. I'll give them that, but yeah,
Mikal Bridges is an okay player. He's an athletic Robert Covington. But the fact that that's the guy you want to give them credit for, I can go on and on and on. I'm going to do a podcast about the Sixers, and I'm going to talk specifically about Joel Embiid, and hopefully this is the end of the process era. But when I ever get the time, I don't know if I'll maybe be 50, 60 years old, I'm going to do a documentary on the process. Not just the trusting days of Philadelphia, from in Chip we trust to trust the process. And so we can really dissect just how bad of the moves these were. I mean, you're my football guy. Trading LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson and keeping Sam Bradford and Jeremy Maclin. Like, those were moves that smart, intelligent, bright football minds wouldn't make. You got to be like, no, those are moves dumb football minds don't make. Like, so, and then Markelle Fultz over Tatum and De'Aaron Fox. When you got tape and video and VCRs, you don't make those mistakes. All right, quickly, two more bangers for you. First one, who my Eagles going to draft? Are we going to lineman again, or are we going to go with a cornerback?
I think you're going lineman, and I think they can actually trade down. I really look at this as being, okay. I think they keep that third pick. I think they can go all the way down twice. I think the Cardinals are going to jump up to take Latu or another edge rusher. I really think they're getting that itchy trade finger. It's getting itchy, so I think they move up. And I would be surprised if you get Tyler Guyton or Marius Mims. One of those two guys, to me, scream out. Or Troy, I'm apologizing, I'm going to butcher his name, Fanatu out of Washington. And whoever they pick, I think is going to be in a competition with Tyler Sheep for that right guard spot. Because they're all three of them are they're not really used to it, but I think they had the good footwork enough to play in that little phone booth, play next to Lane Johnson, and they get to learn from Lane Johnson because eventually one of them is going to take over for him at right tackle, say 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, how long Lane wants to continue to play. So I think you look at offensive linemen, and I'll give you a bonus one. I think you look at the second round, either with 50. I think you look at Edgerrin Cooper, a linebacker out of Texas A&M. So for those two, you get that 1, 2.
He was going to take a linebacker? Well, they took a linebacker not too long ago in the first round, so it's not as surprising. But they haven't taken a linebacker. When you think of linebacker Eagles, I think it's one that they passed on, and I'll never forgive them for. Raymond Lewis.
Yeah.
Ray Lewis. They passed on Ray Lewis. Because he was undersized and scared people. And Emmett Thomas banged on the table for him. Emmett wanted him so bad. He wanted him, Brian Dawkins. He got Dawkins. Couldn't get Ray Lewis. Biggest surprise. I'll get you out on this. Biggest surprise in the first round.
I think we might see the biggest surprise might be either 6 quarterbacks taken or Brock Bowers slips just a little bit. Not a lot. Enough to make it interesting to get in the mid rounds because he's a very talented guy. But when you look at the way teams use tight ends, the tight ends now is not the you pick. And I think you look at Kyle Pitts, I think that's the cautionary tale that teams are worried about now because you see even though it's the Falcons and who they had their head coach and calling the plays, Arthur Smith, it looks kind of like, do I want to take a tight end that high? So I think there's a little drop back, slide a little bit. Somebody might reach up and get him, but he's a guy that I like. Whoever he goes to, he's going to be good. You can line him out as a wide receiver, use him as a big in that H back to flex him out. So I think he's a guy that's going to slide a little bit. So that's one of the things. Why is Brock? And I can hear in the middle copyright. Why is Brock Bowers still sliding? I don't know. I had him mocked up this high. He should do great. Somebody I can hear it coming right now, but I think that's the biggest surprise I see coming out of this.
Mine is, and I wanted to make sure that they hadn't traded yet. That's why I was just checking. The Washington Commanders. We're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr.
Ooh. Oh,
So that's going to be one.
I look at that. I think
Quickly, who's their quarterback? Quick, who's their quarterback? It doesn't matter. They're still going to take him at 2. It doesn't matter. They're still going to take him at 2. Bad teams make bad moves with bad times over and over and over again. And Harrison fits the mold. I'm not that sold on him to begin with, to be honest with you. That's just, that's just my personal opinion. No disrespect to his daddy. I don't want him looking for me.
Okay, but yeah. Don't go to any car washes. Let's get that. Yeah. But when you look at I just take it away that they really inquired about getting the 1 pick, and of course Chicago was like, no, we don't want that. Why they don't regret it yet? But like you could have 3 first-round picks for 3 straight years. But but I look at that, I'm like, there's no the fact that I think they take a quarterback. If anything, I think they trade back a couple spots, and they do that. And maybe the way I think they do it is maybe you trade back a couple spots, like 4 or 5, and if he's still sitting there, you get him. And you got a first-round pick in the following year, and you probably got another second or third round this year too. So, the Cardinals won't do it because they won't do it because they collar. But I think a team with multiple first-round picks, and I don't know offhand any of that, but I know the Bears are taking Williams, so that's the other thing. But I see a team like, oh, we can jump, and that's where they go for that.
We watched the San Diego Chargers pass on Michael Vick and take LaDainian Tomlinson because they believed he was a game breaker. And they grabbed Drew Brees in the second round. I don't believe that you have to take a quarterback in the first round, but I do believe you have to take talent. And if they believe this dude is talented and they need a game breaker, they need a game because they've taken quarterbacks and they haven't worked out. But they haven't taken a wide receiver since what, Westbrook out of Colorado in the top 5?
It's been a minute, yeah. It's been a minute.
So, that's just my thought out there. That's my surprise. I do think he goes number 2. You may be right. Somebody may trade up and then they trade back. But I do believe he goes 2 to the Washington Commanders. It's just mine. Chris, I appreciate you, brother. We'll check back hopefully next week. Go over some draft stuff.
Should be good. Should be good on that one too. Yeah, I love to do it. This is getting a fun time. This is the move and everything. Oh, this is gonna be a fun time. And I appreciate you as always. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No doubt, man. That's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you like the podcast, make sure you share, subscribe, comment, do whatever your podcast platform allows you to do. He's Chris Franklin. I'm Kwame Fisher-Jones. As always, we appreciate your time here. You be easy.